Hey everyone, it's Jamie here from Holistic Pet Mentor, and I figured since it's Friday it would be a great time to go over some information that I had posted a little bit about throughout the week about your pet's microbiome and why it's so important. And so I think that this topic needed highlighted and focused on because we've gotten into a society that's kind of germophobic. You know, you've heard of hand sanitizers and Clorox, bleach, right? And also what's happening to our food industry, and especially our pet food industry, where our pets' food is over-processed. And when this happens, all of that beneficial bacteria is cooked right out of their food. So we have to find ways to support our pets' microbiome and their digestive tract with good probiotics. Hey Stacy, how are you? Thanks for joining me. And so let me tell you why I decided to focus on this topic, and that's because bacteria do a lot of work, and maybe some of you know about this already, and maybe for some of you this will be brand new information, but I think it's important for us to just highlight it a little bit. Because it's something that we're usually just scared of, you know, we don't like to talk about germs. Ew, scary germs, right? But they are so important. They make up a big portion of our bodies, and they make up a big portion of our pets' bodies. So for every cell we have in our body, we have 95 bacteria. So really important that we take care of those bacteria. And the really cool part is if you live with animals, you actually share the microbiome. We actually have similar bacteria as our pets. They take on some of our bacteria and we take on some of theirs, and it works together. It doesn't harm us. It actually joins the microbiome in our system, and ours joins theirs, and it becomes beneficial. So you don't have to worry about having different germs than your pets that live in your house. You actually take on similar bacteria, yeast, and fungi. So, and they all work together to help support our body. Cool things that our microbes do for us: they help stabilize barriers. They help modulate our immune system. That's really important, right? Especially this time of year, and you wonder why so many of us are getting sick when we live in an antimicrobial society where we're constantly doing things that deplete our microbiome and kill off the good bacteria. They help with our intestinal lining. They help support our intestinal lining with digestion, and also with all kinds of different types of regulation, such as hormone regulation, and it helps our endocrine system. So it's going to help support your endocrine system. Very, very important that we have a good, healthy microbiome because it sends all kinds of messages to our body. So the bacteria, the good bacteria, are going to slow growth of the harmful bacteria by competing with nutrients, because they're going to take away the nutrients from the bad bacteria that get into your body. They help break down our food. They transport nutrients. They reduce blood lipids, digest lactose, ferment carbs, and they can convert nitrogen the microbiome can actually convert this nitrogen into like a B vitamin. So something that our body needs. So we actually need these bacteria so we can absorb certain nutrients. So if this is a surprise to you, make sure you put a comment and say thank you for the new information, or yes, new information to me. And so maybe I shared something new for you. So just a little bit, and I want to talk about the different things that we experience throughout the day, and you'll be able to relate this to your pet too and understand why it's so important that we make sure our pets are getting some good beneficial bacteria in their diet. Okay, so every day we experience attacks on this microbiome. For instance, consumption of sugars or animal fat. That can actually damage our microbiome. And you'll see in your pet's food that there's a lot of carbohydrates. If you're feeding a dry kibble, it's probably got a pretty high carbohydrate count. So I want to repeat this information again in case you, oh great, Stacy, I'm glad. Good. Okay, so you're learning something new. Yay! I can't assume what people know and what you don't know, so I just share information that I think is very valuable and going to be helpful for you. So with your dog's dry kibble, and if you're going to do a dry kibble, make sure the carbohydrate count is below 30% of the total diet. Okay, if you need help with that calculation, if you look in the photo section here, I have a picture, and you'll see there's a picture of a dog bowl with a fork and knife next to it, and it has the calculation how to figure out about how much carbs is in your pet's kibble, okay? For dogs, we want it to be less than 30%, and for cats, we need it to be less than 15%. And that is a real challenge to find on today's pet food shelves when you go to the supermarket, okay? So when we go above that, we're definitely creating a bigger problem for our pet's digestive tract because they're just not designed to be processing carbohydrates. It's not what their body was designed for. And we can tell that by the way their teeth are, that they're lacking. They're actually, if you check a pet's saliva, they're lacking amylase, and amylase is needed to start the digestion process for carbohydrates. So if they don't have amylase, that is a clue, that is a signal to us that they really shouldn't be eating a lot of carbohydrates. And if they do, it should be, or plants, they should be eating fresh plants. If you're going to give them any plants, maybe some fresh blueberries or raw carrot, because it's going to have some of the digestive enzymes already in it. So it's going to help them break it down. But if it's cooked, that's where you start to break down these natural enzymes that are already in the food. Since their body's not making it, you have to make sure the food has it in it or supplement an enzyme, okay? Same with our bacteria. If we're not providing probiotic foods such as kimchi or fermented milk, or giving them raw meats, right? Or giving them anything with good probiotics in it, then we're going to have to supplement it with you can use a human probiotic, and make sure you find one that's double encapsulated. If you need help with that, I've suggested it here on this page. I love doTERRA's PB Assist because it's double encapsulated, and that ensures that the bacteria get to the small intestine to open up and do their job, right? Because we need them in the small intestine for digestion and immune support. Thanks for the heart there, Stacy. All right. What's the other thing? Oh, other things. Over sanitation. How about it? Are you using Lysol and Clorox around your pets? That is another item that they can be exposed to that's going to create a disruption in their microbiome as well as yours. So save yourself, get yourself a non-toxic cleaner. I suggest making your own with essential oils, or using an essential oil based cleaner concentrate and then diluting it out with water. And you can use vinegar and water with a lemon essential oil, and you'll have a really natural, great cleaner that's not going to harm your good microbiome. Okay, the other thing, over processed foods, which I brought up already, radiation. Radiation's a real problem. We get that from too much radio waves in our environment. They're everywhere. Or being out in the sun for a very long time can create that as well. X-rays. Also sterilized foods, so pasteurized milk. It's going to take out the good bacteria. We're not going to be replacing any good bacteria. Antibacterial products, how about it? The hand soap, some of our mouthwashes have antibacterial chemicals in them. Some of our shampoos, conditioners, body washes, the alcohol-based hand sanitizers. There's so many things out there that are considered antibacterial. In fact, a lot of our fixtures in our home are sprayed with antibacterial chemicals. Triclosan being one of them that can be found in our bathroom fixtures. So you sit on the toilet and there's chemical embedded in that toilet seat to make it antibacterial. And so we are being exposed to it all the time. So we want to try to reduce that exposure to the antibacterials. Yeah, what is the amount of probiotic for the dogs? You can't overdo it, okay? Because our microbiome is being attacked pretty much every day, we are constantly needing to do things to support it. So you can give them at least one PB Assist a day if you're using the PB Assist. If you're feeding a raw diet and you're giving some fermented milk, you won't need as many supplements. Okay, so this is just for people who are not providing any kind of raw supplementation with food. If you're using the food, you don't need the supplement. If you are using a processed food or a canned food, you're going to need some probiotic supplementation to support your dog's gut health. Okay, so I wanted to just make sure I stress that point. So any antibacterial property, any antibacterial products, you know, if you're cleaning the floor with chemicals, your pet's going to step on that and they're going to absorb those chemicals through their paw pads, or they're going to lick it and get it into their digestive tract, and this is going to disrupt their healthy microbiome. So lots of different things. Antibiotics. Has your pet ever been on antibiotics? You know, any type of medications. These are all things that disrupt the healthy microbiome. So we want to be aware of that. We want to protect it, and we can protect that as a primary goal through nutrition. You know, that should be what our nutrition is about, is to protect that microbiome, right? So, hey, Carrie, I'm glad you're here. I have this information, and, you know, all week I've been doing posts about protecting the bacteria in our body and how we can promote it for our pets as well, and how important it is. And I thought Friday's a good day to sum it all up, right? And just give you a little more detail about why bacteria is so stinking important for us and our pets. So I did dive into that quite a bit. And I wanted to, just a couple more things I wanted to discuss. You're welcome, Stacy. I wanted to discuss how important it is that our pets get our cats and dogs get a meat-based protein diet, not a plant-based. And I said a little bit earlier about the way their teeth are designed and how they don't make amylase in their saliva. But they also, you'll notice our cats and dogs have a rough tongue, so that's also a clue that they are carnivores and that they need meat. And so when we deprive them of that, we're basically throwing things off in their digestive tract. We're messing up with their good bacteria in their system when we're trying to make them digest something that their bodies aren't designed to actually eat, okay? And, you know, guys, I know the challenges of trying to switch your pet to a more natural diet, what they're supposed to be eating. It's kind of like taking someone who's always eaten, you know, Twinkies and McDonald's, right? Or if you're used to eating cereal every morning. Who grew up on crackers, eating crackers as a snack and, you know, having cereal for breakfast every morning? That was me. And so to try to change that habit is very, very difficult. And so if you can relate it to yourself, you can understand what your pets go through when you're trying to switch from a dry kibble over to a raw diet. Right? So we have to do it in little bits at a time, and we have to be patient, right? And we also have to make sure that we're supplementing with the probiotics, because those good bacteria in the gut actually send out hormone signals to different organs in our body, and our pancreas being one of them. Pancreas is very important in hormone regulation and insulin regulation, and so it actually creates a chemical called a trypsin inhibitor. And that trypsin inhibitor prevents the pancreatic enzymes from actually digesting itself, from digesting the pancreas. And so if your hormones are disrupted, this can throw off that gut bacteria if it's not used to digesting something. So some foods can actually trigger it. And so, you know, I've had people say, well, meat actually triggered it for my pet. It's because your pet doesn't have the right bacteria in the gut to help digest these things. So, or the digestive enzyme. So what ends up happening is it sends that message, the trypsin inhibitor is malfunctioning, and those digestive enzymes start eating at the pancreas. So that's why it's just so important that we get the microbiome right, and that we make sure our pets have all of those proper healthy digestive enzymes in their diet. So we can do that through food. And like I said, you can use raw goat's milk. You can use raw milk. It has to be raw milk. It cannot be the processed kind. The processed kind is actually going to cause more harm than good and make them feel very sick. But we can give them small amounts of raw milk, raw goat's milk. You can also use things, if your pet's not diabetic, you can use like some little treats of Manuka honey. And I know I've talked about this before, but I didn't give you a lot of detail as to why that's important. And I figured I better make sure I put more emphasis on the education part and not just be like, here, this is what you need to do, just trust me on it. And sometimes I think people just want that quick answer, but I think with this group of people that's here on this page, I think you guys wanted some more information as to why that was important. So I wanted to make sure I gave that to you. So Stacy says, would I start with adding raw to the kibble or separately? I would do both, Stacy. I would do both. You can actually mix it in with the kibble to encourage, that transition, because now your dog's going to get that dry, crunchy texture along with the chewy texture. And also, it's going to be a slower transition for the digestive tract. It gives that digestive tract some time to adjust. Now, while you're adding in that raw diet, you're going to want to make sure you're adding in some probiotic too, so that we don't get the problems of pancreatitis. So probiotic and some digestive enzymes just to prepare your pet's stomach for this transition. Okay, so some people learn that the hard way when they occasionally give their pet table scraps, and it's usually cooked table scraps, and that's a big problem. Raw is actually better, and that's when you see pets that have a problem. Their bodies just have not gotten all the things that it needs to be able to digest that stuff. So we need to get back to the basics with our pet care and just help support them in that way. So hey, Liz, I'm glad you're here. Thank you so much for joining me. So that's all I wanted to leave you guys with today. I didn't want to be on here too long, so if people wanted to watch the replay, they could get all the information and not have to be online too long. But thank you guys so much for joining me. If you're watching this on the replay and you have questions, feel free to type them in below, and I will do my best to answer that for you. Oh, yay, Stacy. Fantastic. Fantastic. That's the goal. That's the goal. And to, keep your pets healthy and keep them out of, go to the veterinary office for those yearly checkups and do all those things that you can at home to prevent your pet from having to go in for emergency visits or for, ear problems or for skin problems, things that we can do to support their bodies naturally so it can be healthy, right? And so you don't have to keep them on medications and stuff like that. All right, ladies, thank you again. Have a fantastic day. Bye.